Hello, hello, people of the internet. Ian Altor, the Freedom Restorer, Mercedes Ann, the Cosmic Adults here, and this time another special guest. Third interview, the Cosmic Dad, Joe Greenland, again with us, again gracing us with his energy, with his, I just when I start to speak about Joe, only the higher octave words come to mind. And I'm so glad that you're again with us, Joe, and sharing all of your knowledge, wisdom with all the other people as well, because you and I, Mercedes, we get a taste of this quite often, you
I,
especially.
we get a weekly dose.
We get a weekly dose of the Cosmic Dad. And guys, now you're getting a I guess a monthly dose almost of Cosmic Dad. How are you doing, Joe? And I'm happy that you're here.
Oh, I'm doing really, really good. I love sitting with you people and talking and sharing things. Like some of the things we do go really, really deep, and there's never seems to be enough time to actually get to the bottom of the well, to really sit down in the bottom and look up and really see the truth in everything. Or it's like looking out into the stars and trying to point out stars and explaining, well, every little star and the energy. So it's always nice, and it's interesting because throughout my life, people have viewed or saw me, and then you guys call me the cosmic dad. And like I say, there's so much in the energy, even just saying the cosmic, like dad, it's like there's something really, really big. And people have always referred to me in different ways. So I know sometimes it either creates curiosity or something with people. So yeah, I find it very, very interesting. At my age now, with a lot of like younger people, I'm like, oh, they're just kids. And then in my mind, I adopt you or something as part of my family. So there's always that sort of thing that goes on. And
I
the
I definitely I definitely feel adopted.
And so, yeah, yeah, and it's interesting. We were talking a little bit before, and we had a meditation a little earlier on, and we went into some topics and things, and how this topsy-turvy, it's like the challenges in life and how sometimes we're in our own and different things, and we forget about the exterior. Like we're in our own and there's energies in that. Like we forget we got neighbors and they have their beliefs. We forget other people that are walking by, or maybe they're into their belief of Zen or something, and we right here now, we're opening up a space with angels and spirits, and things are going to start generating and channeling, and anybody around us that's has a little bit of a gift or ability, it starts firing them, and they don't know if it's good, if it's bad. Do they want to get excited and just join in on the energy and just think happy thoughts? Or they're like, ooh, I think that's mine. It makes me feel good. I just want to take it all. So all these different things go on, and it's like we turn these lights on, and do we stay at 10 watts, 20 watts? Do we become a million watts, billion watts? Because that generates out far. That really impacts people. And then everybody's into some form of altered whatever. So however they're opening themselves up and trying to understand what they are allowing in. And as it comes in, it's also pushing things from childhood and fears up. So these dynamics are really, really interesting. And we've explored some of them this morning before we came on here. So I'll just
I,
pass it back to you.
yeah, well, I feel like this is kind of bringing up the importance of knowing your own energy and how your energy feels when it's like flowing properly or when it's in alignment versus when it's not. So you can start discerning like, oh, this is the neighbor, or oh, this is this. Um, like how would you say the average person or like a person listening could start to learn how to do that?
I always say you need to become conscious because we're not conscious. Actually, everything's through our emotions. It draws things to us or pushes things away. And it's like going deep inside because it becomes uncomfortable. Like when we really get into joy and happiness, all of a sudden that energy radiates and there's other people, and if they go in it, it's just something really big and everybody's in it and just doing all kinds of things. But if it is some other energies and they come in and they start pushing in, are you going to accept this? Are you going to allow? And sometimes it's like I'll look at a person, I'll see all these energies around them and cords and other things pulling them in different ways, and they can't seem to quieten their mind. And as soon as they get really close to quieting their mind and they're sitting back in their own energy, something else starts to hit. And it's like, why won't my mind just settle down or just be in a peaceful state? Or do I need to just pick up a book and just sit with it and maybe just focus on a book? So that shifts you out. And like I say, for me, being aware of that, I always see it like taking a hot air balloon. It's flat on the ground, and you take one of those propane things and you start sending the heat, and eventually it starts expanding. Eventually, it lifts in the air, and then it's above. And you put enough heat in it, actually lifts you off into the air. But all of that fumes or gas or heat from the propane thing is being pushed into this container and it's expanding out. So whenever we connect with the creator, whenever we go into a meditation or connect with other spiritual people, it's like somebody has started that propane tank. And that sound is uncomforting, it's unearing, and it's trying to lift up and it's trying to take off. Can I trust it? Can I allow it to expand bigger? It's going to take me up, and I'm not on the ground now. I'm floating in the air. Something's going on. Is it exciting? Is there a wind going to just push me all this way and that way? So this is where trying to really, really ask yourself, why do I feel like this inside? What does it feel like everything's pushing into me? Can I just take that thing and just put a little more heat, a little more, so it just opens up? And when we get afraid and unsure, that's where I say it's like we're wrapped in like we wrap ourselves in some sort of cellophane or some sort of like cling wrap or something, and we're in it, and then all of a sudden we come out of it, but we haven't removed it. And there's a layer of energy that's just there, and so you get around like three of us and we start going in discussion. All of a sudden that blows off and like, ooh, this feels so good. Well, I want more. And we go deeper in our thoughts and it just starts expanding. This is where I always ask everybody in this neighborhood be wrapped in their own energy, because across our street here, I think there's a drug house and there's, other kinds of things in all these other houses. And what we're doing, some people are not ready for that. So can they just be in their own little bubble, safely going down their path? Because some of them still want 100,000 lifetimes of exploring light, dark, good, bad. And what we do is so powerful. And if they've accepted it, it's going to change their reality. It's either going to scare them or it's going to enlighten them. I'm not sure if that's a bit of an answer to it all.
I'm just curious of like, let's say these people are in those bubbles now. I'm like, maybe my mind goes into that curiosity of like, is there a way, you know, to kind of like penetrate? Let's say you are doing that stuff, or we are doing that stuff. Is there still a way for that bubble to get a little tiny bit of that sweet nectar from here to there, or it's like almost like a there's such a wall there between them, these two worlds, that it's not even possible.
It is possible. It always is. This is the learning of the universe. This is what all masters have to learn. This is something you have to figure out. And this is where we don't understand our minds. So I meet somebody in a lower energy and I'm in this higher vibration and they're there and all of a sudden they're getting feeling a little threatened, a little bit scared. It's like, how can I come down and match them so they feel like we're on the same level? And once they open and accept that, then I'm going to hold a belief that they're going to come up to a certain level and somehow they're going to grasp and understand this. And they're going to get excited and somewhere they're going to choose to want it, because the universe is waiting for each person to want it. And then it all comes in and it fills them up. And then all of a sudden their mind expands and they want to go really deep. But after you're done with them, they're going to drop down into the old, because they're going to go to their friends. They're going to go to all these old things, even though they experience something really big. And then they're going to think about you and go, well, can I go back to that person? Can I somehow get lifted into that? And then it's just holding that thought, because you have to hold a belief. If you're going to transform this planet, you're holding a thought for 7 billion people that they're going to realize, they're going to go, oh, yes, I accept, I want this. And then everything just goes up. But then, like I say, everybody has a journey and a path. And that's where you got to ask the universe, is there something I can do here to assist this person? Or this is just their journey and I can just bless them so they can go down the path, because that's their
Okay.
soul.
Yeah, sorry. I don't ever want to interrupt you, but I'm like, oh my gosh. So this is like, I mean, this is exactly how I met you. Like I was on this path of like destroying my body and trying, doing everything I could to like shut it down. Like who I was, I guess. And then I came to your meditation, your in-person meditation, and I was
Mhm.
like, wow, great. Had a big experience, which I've talked about, I think, before, but um and then I was like, all right, back into it, like back into the wine, back into the like excessive eating, like whatever it was that I was doing. And then one day I realized I wanted different. And I was like, well, the only thing that I felt that I was like thought was good was the meditation. And so I came back and I was like, okay, let's do this. Right. And then since then, obviously, so real life experience, like what you're saying, I know that what you're saying is true because it's literally been my path for the last little while. My question is, what happens um, if you accidentally or if you do something that's like could potentially knock someone else off their path?
Then it's a learning or something, because I did that in the past. In the past, I get really stubborn. I'm like, no, I'm going to change this person's life. No, I'm going to do this. And the universe is like, no, no, no. And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to stop me. I'm going to do this. And they're like, well, you're going to learn a lesson. And they would step away and I would go about doing whatever. And they're like, we're warning you. I mean, this is, and I'm like, I do not care. I'm going to do this. And
Sorry.
I would put all my energy and I would literally shift something. And they're like, oop, okay, I crossed that line. And it's like, okay, now you have to learn the lesson, because you have to let every soul grow on its own. And this is where you have to have compassion for yourself. And this is where people are like, oh, it's evil, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. And sometimes you have to revisit old things, something that maybe you were a teenager that went on in your life, and you revisit it. And there's something in there you still want to look at or see or explore or understand. There's still a vibration, there's still something open in the ethers. And the universe is saying, are you really done with this? This is where I always say they won't take anything from you until you fully have decided that's what you want. Then it's going to change and release, and new things will come in and replace it. So, this part of, yes, you can do that. And the universe allows it as a learning, because you can't learn anything without a mistake. And we're all here to make certain kinds of mistakes and then go, oh, I messed up. Like I messed up lots in my life. Like my granddad would tell me, God, you're stubborn. Why don't you just listen to them? And I'd look at him and I just like, I'd just go on, and he'd sit and he'd shake his head and he's just like, God, I don't understand this kid. It's like he just causes himself misery. They're asking him not to do that, and he goes and does it, and then all these bad things happen to him. And then he turns around and does it again. It's like, what's wrong? Is something wrong with his mind? But he would never try to interfere. He would never tell me to stop or I shouldn't do something. And he told me one day, way in the future, somewhere, I will understand all of this. And then I would teach and help people with it. It was like with my family, with my mother and everything. I did lots to change things. I interfered. I did lots of things. And in the end, I got my ass kicked for it really, really good. And then finally, the last time when I wouldn't listen, it's like the universe did something. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I don't want to argue. I won't make things so hard. I'm really happy. I want good things. I don't need to put myself down there, and because there were times where I didn't think I was deserving or good enough, or God gave me these gifts and I had a right to use them. So I deserved that. I believed I deserved negativity or there was a point even in my life, I believed every bad thing that was ever going on the earth was because of me. And if I died, then the world would be a better place. But that was a silly thought inside. And it took me a long time to realize and find that answer wasn't the truth. And through many learnings, many experiences, and going in and out of all kinds of stuff, I recognize there's something inside me I got to release and turn around. But then everybody wants to hold me in the past. My mom wanted me a certain way, my sisters, all kinds of different people, and they only want to see me that way because that's the way I fit in their life and it makes them happy. And I'm like, I have to be me. So I went out and I found everything to be me, to speak, to experience, to share stories, whatever it is I needed to allow my soul to come out to be me. And all I knew since I was a child, whatever it is, I have to find it. And I put my mindset on that with all the challenges, with every kind of thing. And I'm glad for it. And I'm like, no, I don't need these cords. I don't need these hooks. I'm still me. People are like, you pray every day. I'm like, yeah, always pray. So there's different prayers going through, and I'm okay with it. It's not a job. It's not difficult. It's not hard. It's really beautiful. And I see changes in that. And people are like, man, you're strange. You pray every day. I'm like, oh, yeah. I talk to God on all kinds of things. And I look at it. And I'm like, just because I'm spiritual, it's not a disease. This is something I live inside. This is something I cherish and love. There's something bigger inside. But I can sit there and we could talk about, oh yeah, let's go to an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Let's blow up things. Let's go out and do this. Let's go to a
Totally, Joe.
restaurant.
Oh my gosh.
And you're still that human.
Yep.
You know, you go to the beach and sit with your friends. You fit in there, but that spiritual, that light, that truth that's inside you, it's there. It can't be taken. And it's so big and beautiful, it can change things. And it's okay to pray. It's okay to be a little different, but you don't have to be that old. They can accept you and go, wow, there's something really beautiful about you. And you are changing. Maybe I should catch up and join you, or I should just accept and allow you to be beautiful.
I think that is like, I don't know, because this is like, you must be channeling something I'm thinking, because like I always think like when people find out that I don't drink or whatever, it's like, oh, you must be some kind of square. And I'm like, no, I buy scratch and win tickets. Like I do whatever I want to do. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, and yet I always come back to the things that I feel are true to me. And I exist in those spaces and watch my friends do whatever they're going to do. Doesn't mean I'm going to participate, but hey, why not?
Yeah, it's like me. I love going visiting my cousins, even the ones on Skid Row and that. I'll go to them. I'll go to their house, and they could be having the biggest party. They could be fighting and everything. I'm sitting there drinking a tea, laughing and talking. I'm not saying stop doing this, don't do that. Oh, geez, you shouldn't put that needle in your arm. It's like whatever the hell you want to do it. I'm just gonna have my tea, and when I'm done, I'm just thankful I had this opportunity to sit with you because I don't know if I'm
Mhm.
gonna have that again. And I want you to have full happy memories. Yeah, I was there and I never judged you. And I'm so thankful you honored me and gave me a tea and allowed me to sit here in your space. And if I come across you in a year's time or somewhere and you're still stoned and you ask me to come over, I'm not going to say anything to you. I'm just going to say, well, I'll have a tea or have a water. I'll sit there and we'll laugh and we'll joke and we'll have good memories. And then I'll just carry on. It doesn't change me, but it's
Was,
finding that beauty within you.
was there anything specific that helped you come to that realization of like having that deep compassion for people that are doing whatever they're doing, even if it's like, they're destroying their body, their soul, whatever? Like, was there anything?
I went there. I did that. I tried all those different things. I know where it took me in my mind and my beliefs and all these other things. And I realized I pulled myself out of that. I made a decision somewhere that there was something more bigger and beautiful, and I'm going to choose that. when that old medicine man was standing in front of me with his pipe, and it was the coolest pipe bag, and he was just this tiny little guy, and there was these little tiny bells, and I'm like, where did in your life did you get these tiny little bells? And he had these fringes, and on the end of the fringes were these tiny little bells, and every time he laughed, this thing, I don't know, it had the most beautiful sound, and it just, with his laughter and everything, it just opened something really big, and he's standing in front of me. And he's like, they're saying up here. And I'm like, oh shit, you guys are messing with me again. And I'm standing there and I'm like, okay, what are they saying? And he says, you have a choice. On this side, there's the girls, there's the money, there's the party, it's whatever you want. It's all there. It's yours to have. On this side is something you've loved all your life, and it's there waiting for you, but they're just waiting for you to make the choice. And it's your decision. They're never going to hold you to it, because I made the choice to live this way. I made the choice with the pipes, the ceremonies, and everything. And all it has done is brought beautiful, good things to me. And it's brought me many, many amazing things. I've met many, many, many people. And I'm like, I made that choice. And when I sit with my relatives and friends and family, and we're sitting in some place and they're doing what they're doing, and they ask me, well, how did you do it? I says, I made a choice and I just asked the creator. And then I just allow them, because to have a beautiful memory with them, even when they're drugged up and everything, it's a memory I'm going to carry. Maybe I won't see them again. Maybe in the next lifetime we will meet again, and then there'll be angelic beings or whatever. My granddad was that way. He would never judge me or anyone. He could see everything about their whole life and know where their things would go on and that. And he would just let each person figure it out on their own, like his own daughters, his own sons, and he knew everything, and he just let them go through it all.
I have a question because that is intriguing to me because you've spoken a lot about your grandfather. I think that connection is beautiful, and then but like the question I have, and it's for you as well, like how did he, for example, decide that, because it seemed like he guided you on a pretty intense is one word, but like a very particular way, because he saw something within you, or the gifts you had. And how did he decide that like you need more of that type of guidance? And was it like his guides, or how's that story? And also I think you've spoken a little about this, but like because a lot of people come your way, and some you see there's an opening, there's a way in, let's say, to help them, to guide them, to kind of, I don't know, open up the gates, so to speak. But others, there's not. So how do you make that decision, and what's the process there behind all of
Well,
that?
with him is like right from a child, like I say, he was tuned into the universe. And he knew for some reason, like, to raise me, and right up until 9 years old, until I ended up getting sent to the residential school, he was there influencing and trying to help me to realize that these angels, these things I saw, these things that went on, these intuitions and everything was real. He never told me I had to believe it. He would just let me explore it, and he'd send me off. He'd allow me to search my curiosities. He didn't say old was taboo, because in church they say this is evil, don't do it. If I was curious about something and there was a way of finding it, he'd say go and explore it. He would not stop me, because he know my soul had to grow. It had to, and if he tried to stop me, it would get worse anyways, and I would go and do it, and somewhere he would find out. So it was like he'd just say, go out and do it. So off away I would go and whatever, and then I would come back. And sometimes he'd ask me to explain things to him. So I'd just share it. So up until 9, he was like the first 9 years of my life was always there supporting me. And I'm like, this is what I'm seeing. And I would try to explain it to him. And then there were guides and spirits and other things that also came in and influenced things, because I had a certain journey and path. And they came in and they were there. Then in residential school, like I say, everything went on. Then I ran away and decided I was going to live on the streets. And this is what I couldn't understand about my granddad is I'm 9 years old and I'm out on the streets, but I made the decision. I could decide to go back in that residential school and take the abuse and just take the anger and just become something I'm not meant to. And I'm just like, no, I ain't going back there. So no matter how hard and difficult it was, inside me, I was making the choice. This is my path and my journey. I can choose a couple of different other directions, but somewhere inside, I just knew I had to go through this. And there were times where when I was on the streets, even at 11 years old, and it's 4 o'clock in the morning and it's like so cold, and you're sitting there and you're just shaking and you don't know if you're going to survive the night, if you're going to be alive. And then you get through that, and I would get mad at my granddad. I'm like, I'm on the streets. And I would send him messages in my mind because I know he could hear me. I know he could connect with me. And I'm like, why are you being so mean? When are you going to come and get me so I can come back home, so I can have a roof, or I can have, something to call home? And sometimes I'd walk down the streets and I had different friends in different places. And some kids I'd be playing with, they say, oh, I got to go home for supper now. I'm like, oh, wow. I don't say that. I don't know where I'm going to be in the next 2 hours, if I'm alive or anything. And they would run off. And sometimes I go over by their house and I stare through the window and I watch them all at the table and things, and they're all enjoying. And I was thinking, geez, maybe I can have that kind of a life. But then somewhere inside is like, no, 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 this is where I am supposed to be. And then until I was nearly 14, my granddad didn't come along. So it was about 5 years. And then he picked me up when I was just around 14 and he brought me home. And it was about a week or a month later. And I was sitting there and all this anger came up from all these experiences. And I went at him and I'm like, why didn't you ever come in and get me? And he's saying, up there, they said you had to go through that. I'm not supposed to interfere. And me and him, we sat for most of that day discussing things, going really, really deep. And like I say, with lots of feelings and hurts and other things inside. And he just sat there and he talked to me. And I wanted to get mad. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to do all kinds of things. But somewhere I knew he was right when he said, up there, they said this had to happen for you to learn. There's something in it that had to go on. And if I had intervened or stopped, then whatever it is you're supposed to do or learn from it all, then I'm robbing and cheating you on something. And it was about 2 years later, I realized how big that was, like way beyond. And I realized how much he really loved me to allow me to go through all of that and see and know everything and not come in and try to stop anything. And I really appreciate that today, to sit here and reflect back on all of it and see everything he taught me and how he channeled into the future and all these things came true. And he never tried to prevent anything. He never tried to give me an answer that would interfere. He would always try to find a way for me to think, learn, grow, and choose. And he would challenge me to it. And it would make me go deeper and deeper inside into that energy, that beautiful energy. There's something so beautiful in you that you have to learn to love and trust. And it was there through so many kinds of things. And like I say, I contracted that before I was born. And like I say, a lot of other things happened too that blew me wide open to the universe. Like that one uncle who tried drowning me nearly 9 times in one summer. And each time I sank in the river and I thought I was dead. And I was this little boy going down in this cold water. And it's getting blacker and heavier and heavier. And I can't lift my arms. I'm so tired and I'm just sinking and sinking. And then finally in my mind, I guess, okay, God, it's time to come home. Then this light would happen and this energy and these beautiful things. And then I would come to him way down the river. I'm on the shore and I'm coughing and I'm sputtering and I'm crying, laying on the beach, wondering what. I just had this biggest profound experience. I don't know how I got to the shore. And then finally I get up on my feet and I run all the way down to the beach and I get to where everybody was playing and there's nobody around. And I put on my clothes and I run up and I try to find my friends. And they all ran away because they thought I died. And then I had these big, profound things go on that, like I say, it altered and changed me. It made me really, really different. And I couldn't explain it. It was just, I don't know, energy from the universe or something came in. And like I say, I followed that path. Even when I was told I was crazy and insane and this and that, I would go in here somewhere and there's something really, really big. And the challenges, like with your family and friends and people around you, is to go, it's okay, I won't save you. If I can change and do this and really help myself to come here, and I'm just going to do it. I won't teach you, I won't do anything. You want me to come and sit and you can get drunk. I can sit with you for 2 days and you can fall around drunk and talk stupid and do whatever. I'm not going to save you. I'm just going to love you. I'm just going to laugh. I'm just going to have memories of whatever it is. Somewhere inside, something is going to happen. And if you really hold a belief, anybody can heal and change by just doing that, just holding that belief for an individual, it will change that. Does that answer a lot of your what you're asking?
Yeah, and oh my God, I didn't know that, like the uncle drowning stories. That is just yeah, it's
I
quite
had to have
speechless.
that. I had to have that. That's what I contracted before I was born. Even my granddad wouldn't interfere with that one. And like I say, without those experiences, I can't be who I am. I have no anger, no bitterness, and I never want anybody to feel sorry. I mean, I created that before. Like I said, I was really insane when I was an angel in the universe. I was like, hey, God, there's going to be a guy on the planet named Joe Greenland. I want to create this life and I want all these crazy people to do this stupid stuff to me. And when I came into my body, I was like, what the hell was wrong with me in the universe? Man, I must have been a psycho angel to create this life.
That's what I was about to say. Like this sounds like literally, like a scene from the movie Revenant. That's a very hard movie to watch, I would say. But like this is literally like real life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, Ian, I'm wondering, like, with what Joe has said, like, is this impacting you in how you're thinking about like raising your son and stuff?
I think not so much yet, but it's almost making me appreciate more of my experiences that I've gone through, where I'm still like a little bit like, wish I would have punched that guy in the face, you know. I'm really honest. I was just like, some of these moments were like, I wish I've just like clocked him. But like even if Joe can find forgiveness for those things, I mean, then I think the window to find that forgiveness and to let go of those things is there. I think for a lot of things, because this is the, I would say, one of the most extreme things when a very close person, relative, kind of like a person who should be taking care of you, does the actual total opposite. So I think there's much to be learned from this, and me with my son, it's let's say I'm learning to let go, but it's like I was like literally, when I look at him, when I watch him sleep, when I watch him do anything, it's like almost, it's like, how is it possible to love somebody so much? It's almost unbearably painful and joyful at the same time. It's like you don't know what to do with that feeling, and exactly then you have to be the parent and grow, help them, get those experiences like Joe's grandfather allowed Joe to have. And I'm not there yet, although so much, but I'm doing my best. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and you learn to appreciate your parents, your aunts, your uncles, your brothers and sisters, because really they're loving you. They're giving you everything you wanted to manifest and create. Because once you shift that mindset and you really realize, because your life is yours. When you're 50 years in the future and all these people in the past are not there anymore, you're going to go inside and look at your choices and you're going to see things in a whole different way and you really appreciate them. It's like when I was 26 and I got kicked right here with steel-toed boots and it shattered and busted this whole cheekbone and that. And like I say, I walked around for 4 days not realizing that that had gone on. And then I came across one of my cousins. She said, "What's wrong with your face?" I'm like, "Nothing. Why?" She said, "Well, there's something wrong. You better go down to the nursing station." I'm like, "Ah, she's crazy. Maybe her eyesight is not working or something." And I was really hungover. And I thought, well, geez, it's really weird, but I better go home and look at my face just in case or something. And the whole side was caved in. Cheekbone was shattered and everything. And I didn't realize it had fractured my skull and inside my ears. It had done damage to my ears. And like my eyes were all red because the veins in the back, some of them had ruptured and other things. And I was really angry at the individual that did that. That was on Christmas Day, Christmas morning. That was my Christmas present for the year. And it made me very, very angry. But somewhere after quite a while, I knew I had to forgive that person. And so I went and sat with the person and I forgave and I walked away. And I'm glad because I could have created karma. I could have done all kinds of things. But I chose, like in the Bible, I used to think sometimes where Jesus says, if they slap you in the face, turn your cheek and let them slap the other side. And I'm like, some of those kinds of things came through in my life. And things challenged me, people pushed at me, and I didn't cross that line. I didn't retaliate. I didn't do something that would be harmful that I would regret, later on in life. And so somewhere inside there's something that is there. And my grandfather was part of nurturing that part of stuff. Like, he could see when I was getting ready to go out and scrap it out with one of my cousins or somebody. And it's like, he tried to help me to see it. It doesn't do anything. And we would just fight back and forth. He'd give me a black eye one day, a couple of weeks later, I'd give him a black eye, and then it would just go back and forth. And it never solved anything. We couldn't even remember why we started fighting in the first place. And so it just becomes really silly, and neither one of us are tougher because sure, you gave me a black eye last week. Now I give him a black eye this week. So am I tougher than he is? And it's like beating one another up, just never solved the problem. And we could never remember why we got mad in the first place and why we're fighting. It's just silly. So you start discovering and realizing things, and there's a beauty inside, there's an appreciation. Like I really love my mom, but I can never explain it to her. I could never help her to realize how big, because she carried me for 9 months and I came into the world and she gave me to my granddad and he raised me. And that was the most beautiful, biggest, precious gift she could give me so that I could live through everything I manifested and created, every kind of situation and that. And I'm sitting here appreciating that. And I wish sometimes I could open up my mind and sit with my mom and she could just see and understand this love that I have for her that she can never ever seem in this lifetime to recognize. And she always challenged me. She always, and then she would get negative and I just head off in a different direction and do my own thing. And like I say, on the other side, I think she'll really see. I think in her mind, maybe she feels like a failure, or she didn't do right by me, or she made mistakes. And I told her when I was around 30, I says, you know what? You did everything perfect. Absolutely perfect. Whatever went on in my life was my choices. Whatever and however things came out never had anything to do with you because it was inside here in my brain. And you have not failed because you agreed to God to carry me for 9 months. And when I breathed that first one, the doctor hit me on the ass and I said, "Whee!" I said, that was the most perfect, beautiful thing you ever did. And you never need to look at yourself and see it as a wrong. So you start seeing things different, but you have to first appreciate and love that light and whatever is inside you that helped you to go through these challenges and why you created and manifested it.
So when I'm looking at this scenario, it's kind of like seeing your grandfather as a teacher, let's say, like he actively taught you. Do you also like you see the universe as your teacher? Like, is this almost about like letting people be taught by the universe in what they contracted and already agreed on?
Yeah, when you understand that you had to make the choices to discover and find where you're at today. and still how you hold, the way you view somebody, or how there's certain things, because you can release it and free yourself. And somewhere, no matter what, whether it's through you or somebody else, the person will find their answer. And if it's not in this lifetime, they have thousands of other lifetimes to connect and grow in that way. And it's like you really manifested and created this whole life scenario. You chose your parents, you chose every situation to make your soul beautiful and learn and grow in the way it is. And like I say, when you hold that space, because if you have compassion for yourself for the next challenges you're going through, you're going to have compassion towards anybody and hold that energy, knowing that any moment they can receive that answer, heal, change, or make that right choice and say, hey, God, whatever these people are doing in that energy, I want it. As soon as they say that, things are going to start happening. It's not because you told them or somebody else, you didn't hypnotize them. There was something inside them.
Nope, no hypnosis. um, oh, I had a question there, but it just popped out. Hang on. Nope, gone.
Hey,
Totally gone.
my grandfather, when I looked at my grandfather, he was my father and my mother. He was my grandmother and my grandfather. He was everything. And all he wanted me to do was learn. That was the biggest thing he told me. He says, read, learn, ask questions, whatever it is. There's no such thing on this planet as a dumb question. He says, if it's important enough for you, you keep asking, and one day you will get the answer. And so I looked out at the world that way. And my cousins and that, they used to think I was crazy. Like, boy, you ask crazy questions. Boy, it's like, you make me ashamed. I'm like, why? To me, it's important. And I want to understand that. It may not make sense to you. And they would say, man, you're crazy. Because I would go and sit with all the old people. I go to somebody's house and spend the whole day there instead of hanging out with kids and playing. And these elders are teaching and showing me things. And I'm asking them questions and they're answering me, and my mind and the way I looked at the world was different. Then sometimes I'd open up my gifts and try to share this and say, we all can do this. And sometimes I'd see the whole day and I'd explain it to a person, and then they thought me and the devil did everything evil, and I created and manifested it all. So it was like, do I share this or do I keep it quiet? And when I moved to the city, I'm like, whoa, they got meditation, astral traveling. People talk about all of this. There's every culture and belief. And then I opened up and I didn't realize I was way deeper in all these things. And some of this stuff that I knew actually scared people. So I had to literally back off and do things in a whole different way. And I'm like, I'm right back to keeping secrets and all these things. But
Mhm.
yeah, the universe is the most wonderful, beautiful teacher, guide, anything you need to know, and that it's there. If you believe something can be healed and changed, and you hold it long enough, it's going to transform and do something really big for all kinds of people. And that's
I
part
rem
of learning.
I remembered my question. It was so on the Cosmic Adults podcast, we talk a lot about like suffering. And so obviously you've been through a lot of things in your life, and what? We talk a lot about suffering, and we talk a lot about like why? Like why bother? Why bother healing? Why, why? So that's my question to you, is like why? What was the thing that makes you want to keep going forward and heal everything?
I really believe there's something way bigger beyond it. Like once I went through my sufferings and that, the energy and other things that came in from the universe was beyond anything you can explain. The experiences I had, the things I saw, even the visions I had about the future and other things that went on, they just came to me. It wasn't, I was like, oh yeah, I got to command the universe and tell them to do this and do that. Things would just come in, and I wanted to drop on my knees and just humble myself. It's just like, wherever this is, whatever God or anything it is, this is so big you can't even explain it. The energy is so beautiful. And the suffering is to really see how you're going to use your mind. It's a challenge. It's a wall that's here, but actually it's really an illusion, and it pushes you. this way or it pushes you that way. And you're either going to decide to fight with it, or you're going to decide to manipulate it, or you're going to decide to do something, or somewhere you're going to surrender and really decide you want to see and understand the truth. And when you start realizing sometimes and you surrender, all of a sudden you have all the answers and you start seeing the bigger picture, and there's some kind of beauty or joy or happy that comes in that you can't explain. And like I say, it has all the answers, it knows everything. And I really know we are going to be in the future and this world is going to be absolutely different. I've had too many visions and I know too many other people that seen and know these kinds of things, and they carry an energy too. They carry a belief that nobody can take it from them. If they can't, there's just nothing that will ever release from you because it's so strong inside you. And all your sufferings, if you really looked at them, you survived them all. So what's so terrible in it? Because it's just the way you hold your mind and your memory around it.
That is true.
I'm
That is
like,
freaking true.
is Ian gonna say something, or am I gonna say something?
Well, if
Go.
it's about suffering, we can, say a lot
We've
about
got
that.
lots of material.
But I think, like, sometimes I don't want to agree with what you just said, Joe, but I, like, generally agree because, like, when like literally I just had like a bit of a, let's say, tougher week or emotionally tougher week where I had experienced some suffering from the past that I had to let go of, and etc etc. And that is one of the things I wanted to say, because in that, being in that moment and in that energy was really tough. And in that moment it's really hard to see, oh, this is suffering, so it's, it's going to be so amazing soon. It's almost for me it's almost impossible in that, during that suffering, to see the good that it's going to bring later on. Right now that I'm coming out of it, I'm understanding the lessons, I'm understanding the people, and this, like, what does this say? Like, if you're, let's say, the people who are listening are out there suffering and you're like forcing yourself to enjoy it, like, usually the understanding and the learning comes a little bit after, once you've gone through the things. So it's easier, like Joe here, who has gone through lots of things. It's and then processed a lot of things and learned a lot from these things. It doesn't, happen on its own. It takes a little bit of time, or a lot of time sometimes as well. So be gentle on yourself as well. I think I need to use that advice myself.
Yeah, and that's loving the part inside you that everybody needs to love, because if you love it, it's going to start coming up and it's going to start transforming everything. Like I say, love your child spirit, ask it to come in, ask it to give you the answers. It's billions of years old. People like saying, oh, it's your ego, get rid of it. Don't ever get rid of your child spirit or your ego. It's so wise. It's traveled through other worlds and galaxies as it ascended. It's come and gone, and it's gone into some very dark places, and it's gone to some very, very high light places. So it is super, super intelligent. And for you, Ian, it's to think about this love you have for your child. And somehow inside you, you have this love also for the world and all kinds of things, and you can't put it into words. And I carry something like that inside me, but I can never ever help the whole world to understand this. And it's like taking your son. All of a sudden, you got to discipline him, and he's doing something. He just won't listen, won't listen, won't listen. Finally, you give him a little smack on the bottom. He freaks out. He cries. Oh, and it just destroys and tears you apart. And you're like, oh my God, I'm such a terrible person. Did you really traumatize him? In 5 minutes later, he'll be sticking his head in a drawer, pulling out things and laughing and making a mess. And like I say, life experiences are that way. Some of them will hold on like with cement, and we won't allow ourselves to see it in many, many different ways. Because the more you see it from many, many different ways with your mom, your dad, or anybody or situation, somewhere inside it's going to release something, and there's some kind of an appreciation or some kind of a surrender or some kind of acceptance. You're not a terrible person, and neither are they.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's something I sometimes kind of like forget. But when you look at a child, really, like they forget and they change so quickly. It switches so like they can be up and down and in the middle and just like going crazy and then calm down, and it really changes quickly. So don't beat yourself up
Yeah,
about
with
these things.
my cousin I grew up with, he's a month older than me. My granddad raised us both, and we would get in fights and that, and we didn't remember. We just get in fights, and he would try to get us to realize and sit down and talk it out. And we're just being stubborn and fighting, fighting, fighting. And he didn't want to spank us or discipline us. He wanted us to really realize how intelligent we are and how we can solve and work things out and change and shift and release. But as long as we got stuck in that small little mindset, and it's like, oh, I'm stronger or I'm right, we would do this. And this one time, he just had enough. He's like, okay, I'm done with both of you. And my sisters were just little girls, and they had one of those pink plastic skipping ropes. And he took that and he folded it and he folded it and he folded it. And then he grabbed me by the foot and lifted me up, and he just gave it to me with all his might. And then it's just like these things are hitting. It's like billions and billions of little things just lashing and cutting through your skin. And he just hit me and hit me and hit me. And then he took me and threw me in the room. Then he did the same thing to Brian. He grabbed him and lifted him, and he just left us in our rooms, and it stung like all day. And you get those little welts, and it was all up and down my back. And then I got really scared. My granddad because he never ever did that before. And Brian too. And we just stayed in our rooms. We were terrified. Eventually, he called us out, and then he came out, and we're both standing there, and he knew we were afraid and everything, but he wanted us to voice out whatever was going on. And he says, "You children, you wouldn't listen," and it brought out the anger. And he says that happened, and he says, "Now think about it, really look at it, because if you had listened and you guys stopped doing what you're doing, you never would have got spanked. It would never came to this point." And he wasn't the nasty man. He wasn't mean. He wasn't trying to hurt us or scare us. It's just something we needed to learn in that moment in time. And we both looked at one another and we realized that if we had just stopped, none of that would have came about. And then we realized, and we just forgave him, and we went about our things. We just carried on. And like I say, we provoked that. And it was nothing he did, but it was a really, really good lesson. Something that made me really conscious and aware.
Sometimes the best lessons are hard and painful, but you
Mhm.
learn a lot from them.
And you
So,
think of you how you love your son, and your mom somewhere inside has that, and maybe even your dad, but they never understood how to express or use it to open up in a way to sit with you.
yeah, that's one of the reasons why I do my best to like express as much love as I can to my son right now. To make him understand that that's there for him, and I think it's quite important to do when you're a parent.
And it's like me, I always say, if I ever ended up with a child, I can give it everything I never got. And I could open its world to something so big and beautiful from all the things I have learned. I think I could give a child one of the most special lives, being a parent, guardian, teacher, whatever, and literally allowing it. It's like taking the seed and putting it in the ground, never knowing what it is. And one day that seed blooms. Then you get to step back when the child is 20 years old and it's an adult making choices. And you're like, wow, I played a part in that. And you see the beauty in the the sun shining out, and the confidence and all the wonderful things this child. And if you're there for 100 years to see all the amazing things, that's one of the most amazing blessings there is.
So you're going to start teaching parenting classes?
I think so.
Not a
But
bad idea. I was thinking that I feel like I really want to segue a bit into the present moment here with like, because I mean, obviously you've been through so much in your life, and like I feel like now it's at a point almost where the blessings are starting to come in. Like, I mean, I'm watching it obviously as like a friend in your life, but um I want to talk about TikTok, like, because that was sort of like a random thing that happened. And for those of you that don't know, that are listening, watching, whatever, Joe's a TikTok influencer. He's like famous on TikTok for real, for real. So what was that like, that day that it happened? Like, what was that day like for you? How has this unfolded? How is your life different?
well, the day like I told you, it says, well, because you kept telling me and saying, well, put something on TikTok. I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. 6 months went by and you're saying it. And I'm like, well, if you have a video or something you want, put it out there. So you did that, and then it just sort of took off, and it was just going. And I was, and you and Cindy are like, whoa, it's at this, it's at that. And to me, it was like a little child. It's like step way back and watch it. It was very, very exciting. I don't know, because in my life, like I say, as a child, when something got really big and beautiful and happy, somebody would steal it or destroy it. So I stepped way back so I wouldn't be hurt or this and that wouldn't. It's just part of the survival inside myself. But I really, really enjoyed it. And sometimes I enjoy things more by viewing other people, and
Mm.
it brings something really beautiful inside. And to me, it's like playing. It's nothing really serious. And it's amazing because we've had some TikTok sessions. The last one I think was like 4 hours. And
Well, yeah, the lives,
all
the
around the
TikTok
world, right?
lives, yeah.
Yeah. It's all around, and I'm just amazed. These people, like, they stayed with us for 4 hours. It was like
4 hours.
all these different people coming and going, and all sorts of stuff. And this one guy really impacted him. He really wants the video. He wants to sit and listen to the whole thing again. And there's something really big in it. It just impacted him. And he's like, I don't know what this is, but it's like, and he really wants to be on more of these and that. And it did something. It opened something, and he wants to know more. Like, I don't know, there's a certain energy, and when it pulls people in, if they're really centered because they're praying and they're asking for something, and then it shows up. And if they're really, really honoring that, it transforms them. It does something beautiful. But to me, I like seeing things as playing because I'm a Gemini, and I think and I structure and I rebuild and I take things apart. I do this all the time, and I'm always reading and studying and looking for scientific things. So my brain day and night is doing this. So for me, playing is a different kind of thing people don't fully understand. And I like that. I like seeing you and Cindy and your excitement and all of that. And I'm somewhere in it
me
all.
me and Cindy were losing our minds. We're like, oh my God, another 1,000 views. Oh my God, another 2,000 views. Oh my God, another 5,000 views. What the hell? So it was so fun. I don't know. It was super fun for me.
In that first video, like I was surprised it went over 200,000 views, and I think it was not even a week. It just went
Yeah.
right easy.
The one on the future is almost at 500,000 views. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Um, yeah. And then like kind of part two of my question here is like, did you have visions in the past of like being out there in like the media or some kind of like people watching you? Because TikTok's a relatively new app, right? So it's like you wouldn't have been able to, if you had had a vision, you wouldn't have necessarily been able to conceptualize TikTok. But was that something that you knew might happen, or?
I always knew there was things, even my granddad told me, where I would impact the world and people would know about me all over the world. I've always carried that awareness, and I've always tried to find that platform or whatever it is I was going to open up and put that out there. And I didn't know, like I say, I did Crassy, and she read my chart, and then she wanted to interview me. And then that's where all this doors with the computer and my business and everything, just Ian coming in and all kinds of other people, even Lada, like there's things and stuff like that. And she's known, and it opened some sort of door. But all through my life, people always told me one day You're going to be interviewed. You're going to be on TV. You're going to be on radio. You're going to be on all these things. And people would channel this to me over and over and over in many different places. And I'm like, if they're all saying this, it's true. And my granddad told me this as a little boy, and I know he never lied to me. And somewhere inside, I was shown different kinds of things that I didn't understand at the time. But as each thing plays at itself out, then I see his memory. I'm like, oh, this is what I was shown that I didn't understand. But yes, this is where I always ask to see and know the future. And it's all everybody's, even as a child, I would ask that. I always wanted to know what I would be when I was older or where I would be and the things I would do. And the universe would open up space and time and I would have all this stuff. Or sometimes I'd ask, and is there somebody there that can tell me something? And maybe my granddad all of a sudden he'd say, you come with me and go outside and light a fire, put the tea on, and he'd throw tobacco and start staring in the flames and start channeling all this stuff he's seeing about the future and things. And he would just, it was like just there. And I would go to elders and people and they'd say, this is what I'm seeing and this is in the future. And they would just go on. So that's something that somewhere I carried inside, that awareness that somehow there's something bigger and it will all happen. It's just like you and Ian, there is something there and all those things will blow wide open and people will realize it and they'll just get drawn into to everything. It'll get really, really big.
Freaking cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, like because Joe did do that, like I witnessed it, right? So he did take that step back and I was like, I mean, it's classic Joe, right? Not to get like crazy excited about stuff, like fairly stoic, fairly, but like TikTok, I was like, this is a lot bigger. So it was like the joke has now become like Joe gets famous on TikTok and goes and cuts the grass.
Yeah.
Does
I
life-changing clearing.
I think that's what you should do actually. It's like because you are the same person. There's nothing really changed,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and I think the sinusoid or the ups and downs of life happen constantly, every day, every minute, every second, every hour. And for me, it's like, do I want to get too high? No, I'm like super excited because everything is happening, and then a minute later, maybe a month later, you're down here, and you want to get too down because it was now it's all bad because
Hmm.
in another minute you're going to be up there being even more TikTok famous.
Yep.
So
Maybe.
is this also like the illusion of emotions?
So there's a line that we all vibrate on. We all have a certain center, and there's a lower here and there's a higher here. And everybody gets in spirituality and they get really excited and they go way, way, way up and they try to stay there. And then when they crash because they don't know where to stop here, they go down here and they get into a really heavy ever energy and they get stuck here. And that's where it's like, oh, I'm not good. Oh, I'm this, oh, I'm, all kinds of stuff. And then eventually the angels are like, okay, we're tired of it. And they bring you back here and you're like, ooh, I feel good again. Everything is opening. Like, ooh. And then something triggers you, and you're up here again and you're like, I want to stay here. And somewhere the universe is like, but you have, so you learn where your center is. When you learn where your center is, you go down a little bit, then you go back up and you're there. Eventually it evens out where you're just here and this energy is just always flowing through you. It's like the answers, the knowledge, and you can open it up and you can allow it to get really big and then you just come back into your sensor and you're just there. And you don't need to drop way down and get stuck or get depressed or really heavy. It's just really easy to come back into your center and just allowing that energy to continuously flow. It's like breathing. You can feel it. It's like water or there's something and it's just flowing and you're just there. And then all of a sudden, like I say, you go up and you come down, but find your center. You don't need to go way down here and you don't need to go way up here because it's going to lift you where you need to. You receive and then you just come back and you're there.
This is like I wanted to say because this is I wanted to like share this because this is from a Chinese farmer story. This is a real story, and this is exactly about what we're talking about here. is like because it starts with like the Chinese farmer whose horse ran away. You know, the neighbors come around. They say, "Oh my God, your horse ran away. Oh, it's so bad. It's the most unfortunate thing that ever happened." And the farmer goes, "Oh, maybe." And the next day, horse comes back, bringing 7 wild horses with it. Everybody in the village is like, "Oh, it's the best thing that ever happened. It's the most amazing thing that ever happened." And farmer goes, "Maybe, maybe." And you know, and the next day, you know, the son jumps on the horse and you know breaks his leg. And again, the people come over and say, "Oh my God, this is the worst thing that ever happened."
Right.
Maybe. You know, you get the point. And you know, the next day, blah blah blah. Things happen. The son doesn't have to go to the army because he broke his leg. You know, and then everybody is again there and saying, "Oh, it's the best thing." Maybe.
Yeah.
Like we never know literally if it's the best thing, it's the most amazing thing. It's just a thing. Everything happens constantly, and you just
It's
live it
always
and
a learning,
experience.
it's always transforming, it's always opening up, and it's gonna pull you in a thought this way, or it's gonna pull you in a thought that way, or up or down. And you're going to see it the way you choose in that moment. And it's like somewhere inside, when you just sit in it, it just starts showing you everything. I always like saying with Libra, there's the thing that supports the scale on top. It goes this way or goes this way. And Libras, they run across this top. They go this side and they agree with something, they get really heavy and stuck. Then finally they get pissed off. Somebody comes along and tells them the opposite. One minute they're communists over here, next thing they're over here, they're liberal, and they go and they're way over here. And I'm like, no, 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 stop. Become the thing that's in the center and look at both points of views and don't decide. Just stay in the center. You're going to receive all your answers. And if you allow both the good and the bad on either side, and you're just staying neutral in that center, all of a sudden everything comes here and you just see the big picture and you just go, oh, and you're just free of it. People ask me, are you communist? I'm like, yeah. Are you liberal? Yeah. When I was in ABC going, trying to get this adult equivalent grade 12 thing, and I was going to school and they decided to do this test. And I was like, there's something strange about this. And there's about 10 sheets in this test, and there's all these questions. And I finished it and I handed it in. And then about a week later, the teacher calls me up to the desk. And everybody's like not at the class. I went in and I was sitting and she called me up and she says, I think we need to redo this test. I'm like, why? I answered every question. She says, but it comes up you're communist. I'm like, yeah, so? She says, I think it's wrong. I think there's something wrong here. I'm like, okay, I'll do it again then. So I do it and I come up even more communist because I realized there was a couple of beliefs there because it had to do with abortion. And it's asking me, does a woman have a right this way or a right, or does the government or something? And I'm like, it's the woman. She has the right if she's going to abort or not abort. So I checked that one. I'm like, no, it's the woman. It's not the government. It's not her parents or anybody. Like, maybe she can't afford to feed the child and she knows inside this is important. She needs to do this for the right reason. So, no, I side with the woman, whatever is the decision. So I came out even more communist, and she's like, something is wrong here. I did it 3 times, and each time I came up more and more communist. But I'm not against governments. I'm not against liberals or Democrats or, the Green Party or anything. I'm not against anything. I'm open for everything as long as it's going to change and benefit the whole world. And she couldn't understand that.
I changed my perspective if if I can share a little bit when I don't know, talking about voting, and I was like, well, who did you vote for? Because like I voted for like alongside my political beliefs, and Joe's like, I voted for who the universe wanted me to vote for. Like whoever will help change the country the most. And I was like, why didn't I vote that way? Like, why did I think of that? Like, yeah, big picture.
Yeah, and the way I tell Cindy, I says, So who is the best person in all of this? Because they're all bad and they all have different ways they're going to side and do something. So which one is going to do the best out of all of it? And so I'll ask the universe, so which one? And it usually comes up to, and then on voting day, it's like, okay, vote for this one. And usually whoever I vote for ends up winning anyways. And I'm like, okay, he's bad, but how much good can he actually really bring in or do something to change? That's why I really loved Donald Trump. I thought he was the greatest. And everybody saw him as the most terrible person. But he did, of all the presidents that ever were in the United States, he did something so amazing and he changed so many things. And nobody could figure him out because they never knew. And he would make all these mistakes and do stuff, and everybody was going this way and that. And I just watched it and loved it. And I thought it was
Is this a good segue to wrap it up? Like,
I think so.
like, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly with the DT. I thought he was just such a comedian and it was just so awesome. Anyways. But yeah,
But he was being himself, right? That's all.
Yeah,
He wasn't trying to please
exactly.
people or make people like him or anything. He just stayed to whatever the energy in and he just followed it truthfully.
Yeah. I'm wondering, do you have any guidance potentially that you want to wrap this up with? Like, do you have anything that you've been thinking about this week or pondering or anything that you want to share with people listening?
I don't know, it just keeps coming up just to love your light. There's something beautiful inside and really, really know that you're deserving of that. And first you got to start with yourself. Because once you do that, then everybody is going to respond. You're going to start seeing people because you don't need anything. When people don't love themselves, everywhere they're going, they're pulling, they're yanking on energy, they're doing this and that. And they feel it's someone that has to generate this energy. But if they're just loving, then this energy is coming out and it's supporting everybody around. People feel really good. And you don't need anything from any of them. And it really impacts people. It impacts you. It impacts all kinds of things. And that light gets really big and people want to come to it because whatever it is, like I say, it's going to bring you everything. It's going to do every possible thing. And if you're around children, watch them because they love themselves. They're very, very selfish. And they don't realize that everything is theirs. If you come along and they really like you, they own you. They don't care if you want to believe it or accept it, but in their minds, you belong to them and there's nothing you can say about it. And everything is mine, 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 mine. And they just love themselves. And like I say, they're learning and they're growing. They're not doing anything in a negative way, but they know it's about their soul and there's something they're learning and doing. And like I say, they just generate out this love. And when you go near them and if they love you, you just feel this absolutely amazing energy. And really, like I was telling this people in the meditation, I says, love your child spirit, let it in. Like really, really want to love yourself because then it's just going to radiate out from you. You don't need nothing from nobody, gurus, anything. It's just something that's beautiful that flows.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think we really forget that part, that we were all children at one time and it wasn't all bad.
Exactly. Sometimes you need to be selfish in the native ceremonies. You say, in the sweat lodges, we get the third round or something. We say, be selfish, pray for yourself. You need things. You need to be happy. You need money. You need this. So this round is about you. Be selfish. Forget everybody and everything and be selfish. And you do that and you find happiness. You start receiving things because you deserve it. It's not selfish to have things and be happy and beautiful.
Cool. That's a beautiful note, I feel, to end things off, tie it off with a nice little bow. Thanks so much for for sitting with us, Joe, and talking and sharing your wisdom as always. We're not going to be doing the weekly guidance. You will have to check out Instagram for that at the Cosmic Adults. And yeah, any last words there, Ian?
Yeah, guys, let us know in the comments below if you want the guidance to be done here as well. We would love to know. And Joe's information will be in the links below as well, so you can contact him, you can work with him. And Cosmic Adults out, I believe.
Well,
Okay.
one other thing, Mercedes brought it up at the beginning of this. Do people really want the guests to be introduced so you can have some sort of idea or byline? So maybe everybody can comment, or I like this open platform seems to be really fun because then you get to know a person and there's a lot of curiosity behind
Yeah.
it.
Just trust us. We don't interview people that suck.
That's a bold statement, but I would say
no, but we do our best to interview anyone and everyone that should have a voice, I feel.
Awesome. Cosmic Adults, appreciate you guys, and thanks again to Joe, and see you again soon.
Comment, subscribe, share.
Like, comment, subscribe, share, of course.
We're getting okay at it.
God bless you all out there and wonderful things.
Bye, guys.